Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Bell to Bell with Bobby Blaze. I am your host, Professor Jeremy Vilmur, and joining us now, Arn Anderson's favorite enhancement talent, Double B, Bobby Blaze.
Hey there, Professor, man. Guess what? No gimmicks needed. Let me tell you what, I had one of the greatest gimmicks in professional wrestling, and I was taught by Malenko. And you know what that gimmick was?
What's that?
I knew how to wrestle, and I knew how to work. That's the only gimmick I needed.
Well, there you go.
And I am Double B, Bobby Blaze, Arn Anderson's favorite enhancement talent, and I take great pride in that, man. And, of course, we're going to have some guests in just a few minutes, and I will, that's where this No Gimmicks Needed is going to come from. Excuse me there.
Yep.
So you doing okay?
I am fair. I'm gonna apologize to everybody ahead of time. I recently, in a moment of stupidity, adopted a puppy. So if there's any yelling, screaming, barking, or me saying, no, don't shit there, that's what's happening.
Okay. Well, we'll get right into this thing in just a few minutes. I wanted to also, before I mention a couple things, give a shout out to Mike Mills at Booking the Territory. Got a lot of good feedback on that, man.
Great guest.
We really liked, man, we really appreciate him being on the show. The Menace to Society thing, man, that really, people, wrote in a couple of times on the Twitter there about, hearing Mike on our show. It's really cool, man. And I appreciate him coming on and doing such a professional job. Of course, we didn't expect anything less, even though they do have the most unprofessional podcast out there at Booking the Territory.
The podcast is unprofessional, but not the people on the show.
That's right. That's right. So I'm going to throw out a couple dates here, and then I think we'll introduce our guest in just a few minutes. Professional wrestling returns to the Rona Theater in Ironton, Ohio on July 17th. And we're going to have former WWE talent from Crime Time, JTG. Brandy Lauren's going to be there. Shane Douglas, ECW. And Matt Cross from most recently, I think, NWA. And many more stars of matches. Of course, some of the students will be working on that show as well. Some of the people I've been working with and keeping an eye on, and I've got some really talented people over there. That's a really good promotion. So I'm looking forward to them returning to Ironton, Ohio. If you're in the tri-state area, get over there and have a good time, man. Things are open back up in this area again. Also, don't forget, it's the Bash in Beckley. I think Stephen P. News, big behind this with the ASW, and it's August the 7th. And I will be at Shane Storm's corner as his manager as he takes on Jerry the King Lawler. Now, the thing about that is this is going to be a reunion of sorts, but Lawler, for some reason, is going to have Dennis Condrey there in his corner as some type of enforcer. That's not what I signed up for, but I think between Shane Storm and myself, I think we'll be more than ready to take on Jerry the King Lawler. And so that's Bash and Beckley at the Riley County National Guard Armory, I think it is. It has another name as well. But I know that building well. We used to work there a lot in Smoky Mountain. It's a hell of a good wrestling atmosphere. So come out if you're in that area. Huntington, Charleston, Beckley, anywhere in that Bluefield, Princeton, wherever you can hear me out down that area. Come up there to Beckley that weekend, man. It should be a good time. That's all my updates, Jeremy. I appreciate you letting me get them in there. And so today we're going to be joined by Jonny Candido. He's a co-author of the book about his brother, the great Chris Candido, and it's called No Gimmicks Needed. Jonny, he's a professional wrestler himself. He's going to come on and tell about that. He spent years wrestling in the independent scene. He worked some for WWE. He worked for ECW a lot, and he's dedicated years of his life to keeping the memory of his brother alive. So we're going to be joined by him in just about 3 minutes probably. John Cosper is the author of this book. Now, John Cosper is the author of more than 30 fiction and nonfiction books. His past wrestling titles include the biographies of the Black Panther, Jim Mitchell, and Elvira Snodgrass, as well as the autobiographies of Dr. D. David Schwartz, Madman Pondo, Tracy Smothers, Hurricane, J.J. McGuire, and Scott Romer. You can find his wrestling books at, I'm going to repeat this during the podcast too, it's at www.eatsleepwrestle.com. Now, I've got this book that's really, really good. Also, this book is dedicated to someone we recently lost, and that's Tracy Smothers. So this book is dedication to the memory of Tracy Smothers. And I know a couple people I know bought the Tracy Smothers book yesterday at a wrestling show that John Cosper was at. So I was happy about that. But anyway, he is the author of the book. And right now we're going to be joined by Johnny Ray, his real name, Johnny Ray Candido, brother of the late, great, No Gimmicks Needed, Chris Candido. Hey, man, Johnny, what's going on? What's good?
Yo, what's up, Bobby Blaze? So good to hear from you, brother.
Yes, sir. It's good to talk to you, man. We've had a couple of talks and kind of got back in touch with each other. It's really cool. Want to reach out, speak out loud, and to say thanks for being a part of the podcast today. My podcast partner is Jeremy, the Professor Vilmur. I think you two kind of maybe talked off air, but anyway, man, thanks for taking the time out of your day and coming on to our show, man.
Oh, dude, thanks for having me on. It's an honor. I'm always happy to talk about my brother and everything, the book and everything that's going on. So it's really cool. Thank you.
Yeah, that's what we're here for today. We're going to talk about Chris Candido, No Gimmicks Needed, by John Cosper and yourself, Jonny Candido. So
that's right.
We want to get publicity out there about the book. We want to keep the memory of Chris alive, man. That's really important to you. I know that, and it is.
I
had the pleasure of sharing the ring with him, and we'll tell a few stories as we go on.
Yeah, that's definitely my one of my drives is to keep my brother's memory alive.
Well, I had the pleasure of working with him way back in Smoky Mountain Wrestling. Part of my story is I'd finished up a match at the Knoxville Civic Coliseum, and Cornette had already been telling me that he was going to be bringing someone in for me to work with. And I think it was a Sunday afternoon show. Chris wasn't booked or anything, but he drove over from the Memphis area. He's working down that territory or finishing up. And he came up to me in the back of Civic Center and introduced himself to me. And I thought he was very professional, very mature for his age. And we just started talking, and he said, he told me coming in. He didn't have an exact starting date, but he said Jimmy gave him a guarantee he's going to be, working the next few weeks. And from there, man, we started a program, and we just hit it off, man. We just had a lot of good ideas in the ring. We were doing some innovative stuff at the time. Both of us being younger and athletic, and man, I just took right to him, man. So I just want to say it's a real pleasure to share the ring with Chris, and we'll tell some more stories about me and him in a minute. But go ahead.
I was gonna say I could tell from the book, like you're kind of his first introduction into Smoky Mountain,
Yeah.
And I think you're the first guy he did the top rope power bomb to.
Yeah, that's it.
It's also crazy to think that he was like 19, when he was there. He was just so laser focused on wrestling that it just like consumed everything, which is just it's kind of inspiring. Like seriously, it's all he cared about: lifting weights, wrestling.
Yeah.
Like he couldn't.
I could tell.
He couldn't play any other sports. He didn't want to play any other sports. We tried to get him to play basketball or whatever, and he just grab a rebound, start chopping people, putting people in headlocks and shit. So he was no fun to play any real sports with. But yeah, just wrestling 24/7. That's all he cared about.
Well, I took the power bomb. I tell you what we did, and I'm glad John included that in the book here. Starting around page 56, 57, they started introducing me into the storyline, and it's straight truth. The way he wrote it up, and I know John's a wrestling historian, but yeah, we had a 4-day run coming up. We've been working for a while. We had a 4-day run coming up for a Thanksgiving Thunder tour in '93, and Chris had this idea of doing a power bomb on me off the top rope, and I was like, I was a little bit leery of it, but we discussed it in the hallway, and so I ended up taking the thing. Well, the first night was in Hazard, Kentucky. We had a 4-day loop in Hazard, Kentucky, Johnston City, Tennessee, Morristown, Tennessee, and, of course, Knoxville, Tennessee. So the first night, we had a pretty good crowd. We get ready to go do the deal, and Chris picks me up and launches me. And I take the power bomb. So Chris is climbing. He's climbs back up the top rope like he's going to jump on me. Well, I jumped back up and drop kicked him in midair. So, I just took this big devastating move, and then I'm jumping right back up and kicking him. So anyway, we get the deal off. And then we go to the back, and Kevin Sullivan's waiting for us. And
man, I was going to say, you couldn't be too happy.
Yeah, he was just like, he pulled us over there, and he started talking to us, very professional, of course, but he was like, so, Bobby, here's the thing. If you're going to do this again, Bobby, you die. When you take the bump, just lay there. And Chris, you sell it. Bobby, dead weight him. Don't come up for him or anything. That's the fucking finish. That's the finish. The next three, depending on the next 3 nights, that was when it would be. And so Kevin's been real serious and animated, how he talks and stuff. And he goes, so actually we did that the next 3 nights, and it worked perfect because Chris acted like he killed me. He couldn't pick me up and just went for the pin or whatever. But Sullivan is giving this advice about how to make it real. And he goes, excuse me, I got a spike match with Brian Lee right now. He had like an Asian spike match coming up. He's telling me and Chris not to kill each other.
He's yelling you.
He's going to kill someone with a spike, So anyway.
He's yelling you guys. You're going to stab a guy in the forehead.
Yeah, exactly. So, and Chris and I turned around and looked at each other. I mean, we literally looked at each other and started laughing out loud, man, as someone was walking away. We didn't mean it disrespectful, but it's like, you going to fucking tell us not to, but it was really cool. But the spot
I give
3 nights.
I give you so much credit for taking that. I've done a top rope powerbomb from the other way, like slid underneath him and then climbed up and did it that way. But to have to balance and like how much do you help? Does he do it all the way? Like I put it like this, on the internet, I've seen so many people mess that up. Yeah. And like, the guy in the bottom tries to help too much and they fall backwards or, like, man, that had to be something
I was athletic at that time, and good shape and knew what the fuck I was doing, because Chris knew what the fuck he was doing. And I had him lift me up. Well, I'd been in the ring with him a lot anyway, so I knew how strong he was. But I had him lift me up a couple times in the hallway prior to it just to see how, if I needed, how much I needed to crunch at the top, if I needed to reach over and put my hands behind his head for balance or anything. It all worked out, though, man. So.
And that's funny because that kind of ties it. I came down to Smoky Mountain around that time. So if he was 19, I was 9. And, I came there a couple times. I remember that dude, Bruiser Bedlam. And
I knew that's what I was going to mention.
Yeah, because my brother was like, dude, this guy's a freaking madman. He has like a 700-pound bench. And then Bruiser Bedlam was like, he's like, hey, kid. He's like, when you get older, if you're a 3-plate guy, don't even talk to me. If you're a 4-plate guy, you can get me a cold drink. If you're a 5-plate guy, we can hang out. And then so I'm like, I'm gonna be a 5-plate guy because Chris, before he left, in a powerlifting contest, benched 505, right? So just fast forward to me being 20, me, Chris, and John, Balls Mahoney, we're all training together at Jersey Shore at this gym, right down a couple of towns away. And, I get 5 plates on there. And then I'm like, screw it, and like put a 10 on either side, make it 505. I freaking banging out for a double. I'm freaking stoked, I'm doing the strut. I'm freaking happy, I got 5 plates. So we go to this bar called Barry's, which is like across the street from the gym. We get a couple drinks in us. My brother's like, hey, bartender. He's like, check out my little brother, man. He's 20 years old, just benched 500 pounds. Check him out. He's 20 years old. The bartender's like, how old is he? Like winking his eye. He's like, he's 20 years old, man. Check him out. Fucking 20 years old. And Balls is like, two. My brother's like, Mr. Wrestling number 2? What does he have to do with anything? And the bartender's like, how old is he? He's like, you guys fucking deaf. He's 22 years old. He's 20 years old. And I'm like, dipshit, the drinking age is 21. He's like, oh, God. He's like, sorry, he's 21. It just took him so long, but it was so funny because, he wasn't a big drinker. So we had like a couple shots and he was just like, oh, man, 20 years old, check him out. It was fucking hilarious. The bartender didn't give a shit. I mean, we went there all the time. But it was just funny because I took that away from Smoky Mountain.
Yeah.
That was funny. I just remember that dude, Bruiser Bedlam, made a big impression on me as a kid. I'm like, yeah, dude, I'm going to bench fucking 700 pounds. So, yeah, that was a really cool place.
Yeah. he'd go into the gym and put 4 plates on there. He'd do like 315 for like, 5 or 6 reps, just real easy as a warm up. But he'd put the 405 on there, and he'd bring it down. He did this in Morristown one time. He brought it down to his chest and held it. Young kid working behind the counter. And he likes run over because he thinks his bruiser's struggling with that, right? Because he's got to lay it on his chest, and he's going, fuck. And he's working the kid. The kid comes running over there, and Bedlam just pushes the weight back and racks it. Get the fuck out of here, kid. Don't get in here. Go over and get me a drink. He just starts browbeating the fuck out of the guy, man. And the guy brings him a towel over, brings him a drink over and all that, just like, he was just crazy like that though, man.
Oh, dude, that's funny. Yeah, I remember when I did the 505, I let my chest kind of help me and just like, ding, ding, nailed that a double. I'm like, fucking got it. That was just like one.
Hell of a lift.
Yeah. Well, at the time we were, it's kind of funny. The story's in the book, but it's funny if I tell it because around the same time, me and Chris, we went and we picked up some gas, some steroids from our friend in Brooklyn, and we're driving back home, and we're like, yo, let's stop at Nature's Corner. It's a health food store that's like by our house. We're like, let's stop at Nature's Corner and get a wheatgrass shot and like a kale juice or something. So we're we're standing online. And my friend Shawnee's mom, she's like, Jonathan, Christopher, I didn't know you two were juicing. Me and him are like looking at each other like, what? She's like, I didn't know you two were juicing. How long have you guys been on juice? And we're like, fuck, this is like pins hanging out of our pocket. We're like, what? She's like, I love being on the juice. And then we realized we're standing at a juice bar. And my brother's like, oh, juice. He's like, yeah, I've fucking been on the juice for a while now. He's like, I love it, She's like, doesn't it make you, it makes you feel so strong and good. He's like, yeah, it clears up your skin, fucking makes you strong. It was so, because like when she said it, both of us were like, our fucking hearts dropped. And then we realized, she was talking about fucking kale and celery juice.
Right.
And we're thinking, it was funny. But yeah, me and him had a lot of fun, man. And it's really cool to see.
Through, man.
What's that?
It's funny to hear you tell the stories. I was going to say, I read the book all the way through. I finished it last Friday. There's some really good stories in there, but hearing you say them out loud, it's much more fun, to hear. But I did enjoy the book. I am going to leave a 5-star review for you guys, man. It's well worth it. Jeremy, you got anything to ask about?
Well, I kind of do. I'm interested more like in the your guys' early days. I mean, obviously, Chris was 10 years older than you?
Yep. Okay,
so when he got into wrestling, you were still 4 or 5 years old.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. I was going to say just kind of working out what I've read a little bit here. So were you a wrestling fan at that point? Kind of what was your relationship to wrestling because your big brother was a wrestler?
I mean, I was a fan of him. Whatever he did, I was going with him, Like I think I kind of realized what everything was when I was like maybe like 7 or 8. He was like 17, 18. And he took me to a local show, and he worked Sabu. And then on top was Terry Funk and Eddie Gilbert. And I was like, holy shit, this is really awesome. And then, he was bringing him, he would just bring me with him all over the place. So that's when I started really becoming a wrestling fan, but it was more like I was a fan of him. Like if he said a guy was great, I thought the guy was great. If he said the guy was the shits, I thought the guy was the shits. Like whatever he said, I kind of went with because he was my big brother, But I'd say around like 7, 8, I started to realize what he was doing, what he was trying to go for, and I kind of got it. I remember he was showing me this. He put like a compilation together of like moves and him taking bumps to that Rat song, Round and Round. And he's like, hey, dude, watch this. So I was watching it, and half of it is, I know Nightmare Danny Davis was in a lot of it. And, my brother's taking backdrops. He's taking, big high arm hip tosses. I'm like, dude, you're getting your ass kicked the whole time. I'm like, nobody's going to want to hire you watching this bullshit. And he's like, no, I got to show him I can bump. Like, I can't just be on there, winning the whole time, So I kind of got what it was after that.
Yeah.
Because, he did some offense, but a lot of it was him. Chris used to like feed for stuff. Take a big high backdrop, big high hip toss, So I saw it, and I'm like, dude, you got your ass kicked the whole time. That's a terrible tape. But then I realized what it was.
Yeah.
So ever since then, I was a big fan.
Have boots will travel. You know, that's my book was Pin Me, Pay Me, and I talked about Chris in there about the bumps he would take and stuff. Man, that's good stuff. So because he was doing shows out on the beach and stuff, and then renting rings from Larry Sharp by the time you were like 14, 15, right?
Yeah, like earlier, like 13, like so. Yeah, there's this park in Spring Lake, and he, like I said, he turned so like the whole fourth floor in our house was his. It's like a bedroom, and then there's a big side storage room he called his office, and like there's like tens of thousands of wrestling magazines up there, posters galore. He had, all kind of shit up there from the time he was like, he had a TV in that room, a TV in the other room, but he like would cook up his little wrestling schemes in there. And he's like, I want to have wrestling in Spring Lake. And he like put on a suit and tie and with like a briefcase and went to the town council meeting and like proposed why they should have wrestling in Spring Lake. And they gave him the go ahead. And so he got the ring. Balls was there. And what's funny is there's pictures of Balls and my brother from that time. Like Chris looks like he's 13. Balls looks like he's 35. Like he has like a fucking beard and chest hair. And then Bam Bam Bigelow is a town over, and Bam Bam's 9 years older than Chris. So Bammer was like semi-established. So he came over and wrestled. So they did that for a couple summers. So he really, he was just all over the place as far as wrestling. Wherever there was, like how you said, have boots will travel. That was him. Like he was just up and down all over. Anywhere there was a show, he was there. As far as even when we went on like family vacations, I remember to Puerto Rico. I was little, but I remember vaguely that they were holding some kind of like maybe it was Cauliflower Alley. They were doing something at a nearby hotel. And, my parents are like, don't you want to go snorkeling? He's like, no. I want to go to the, I want to go to the Embassy Suites or whatever and see all the wrestlers. Yeah. Like that's all he cared about, Right
on, man.
So it's really cool. And it's cool to see that this many people still really like his story. Like, I kind of check on Amazon every day to see where the book is. It's always in the top 100 most popular wrestling books. Today's number 45. And it's been as high as 5. It's beautiful. I freaking love it that people are loving it so much, It just, I have so
100, so that's real good.
Yeah. It's like, there's so many other stories I wish I could have gotten in there that, like for instance, you know the picture in the book where it's a whole bunch of us about to play tug of war and it says Chris prepares to cap. So that's not the real story of that picture. That picture is, so Bam Bam Bigelow, he moved from here. He's like Chris, Johnny, he's like, I bought this place in Pennsylvania. It's going to be Bam Bam Bigelow's sub shop and ice cream parlor. And it's on like 4 acres of land. He's like, for the grand opening, I want to have Bam Fest. He's like, we're going to have wrestling. We're going to have live bands. We're going to have like bouncy castles for kids. We're going to have fucking hot dog eating contest, tug of war contest, fucking arm wrestling. Like he had like this whole thing set up, right? So he's like, oh, I don't want to oversaturate it with wrestling. So we did like, I worked my friend Thunderbolt, my friend Paulie worked Ray Apollo, who was Doink at the time, who worked as Doink. Balls worked Mike Cruel, and Chris and Bammer were on top. And then after that, there was a fucking tug of war contest. So it's me, my brother, 2 of my friends, or 3 of my friends who are just like skinny surfer dudes, and Balls. And we're winning. We're kicking everybody's ass in this contest, right? And then we get to the finals against a fucking professional tug of war team. I didn't even know that was a thing. Like, these dudes were all like 400 plus pounds. They had fucking cleats on. They were chalking their hands up and like knocking heads together and shit. So we huddle up, and Chris is like, he's like, yo, there's no way we're beating these fat fucks. He's like, so let's get them going. And then on the count of 3, we'll let the rope go. We're like, all right. So we get in there. That's why the picture, we're all kind of like holding back smiles. So we get in there and we're fucking going. These guys are fucking going. And then we go 1, 2, 3. We let the rope go. These fat fucks went flying like far, like a lot farther than we thought. Like bowling pins. Like one dude like hit his head on the ring truck. And they jumped up like they were going to do something for a second. And then they saw like, Balls and Bammer and everyone. They thought better of it. But yeah, they went fucking flying. It was funny as shit. So yeah, we had a lot of fun. I could literally write a part two.
Yeah, I hope you do, man. Tell us more stories. You sent me some video how close y'all actually lived to Balls Mahoney and how y'all spoke with them. So,
oh my God!
At a baseball game or something, Chris is out there fucking around and like, hey, the ball's coming to you. Chris is like, he didn't play baseball to begin with, and that's where he met Balls. Though Balls was like riding by on his bike, right, or something.
Right. Yeah. So Balls was riding by on his bike, and like he had like a Roddy Piper shirt on. My brother's like, "Hey, you like wrestling?" John's like, "Yeah, I like wrestling." And they were talking, and like a ball came Chris's way, and everybody's like, catch the ball, and he just kind of threw the mitt out there and just kept talking to John. And let me just preface it by saying he was so the shits at baseball. Like, so when I was younger, all I did was play baseball. I pitched. I had a fucking cannon. I used to throw so fast. So, my dad and whoever had a catcher's mitt to catch me because I had like 12. I was throwing rockets. And I'd be like, Cook, come on, let's play catch. Let's play catch. So I would fucking rifle the ball at him, and he would just kind of paw at it with the catcher's mitt, and sometimes would ricochet up in the air, and I'd catch it. He's like, I'm so good, I can catch it and throw it at the same time. But he really was terrible at it. But Balls lived right down the street from us. So like
you mentioned Cook. I never knew that was his nickname till I read the book. Actually,
yeah, it's kind of like a nickname in the family. When I was a kid, to his face, I've never called him Chris. I always called him Cook. When I was a kid, I couldn't say Chris. So I called him Cook, and it's just one of those family things we just picked. And people around the neighborhood just knew him as Cook, my older brother, But, John Balls was a fucking madman. Like, there's so many fucking funny stories. Like, the one in the book is just one of a bazillion when he was scratching his nuts making chicken. Like,
oh, God, yeah.
Dude,
I'm getting sick reading that.
It was so funny, though, because it was funny because – oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I've been around him. He wasn't the most, the cleanest of guys anyway. And one time, I could tell you the town, it was Barbersville, Kentucky. And we were out there selling, doing our gimmick wars before the matches. And he let a fart that fucking cleared out the gimmick table. Sandy Scott got hot about it. Saying, he went in the locker room. He sent him to the locker room. He said, you can't be out of here doing that. And he just kept ripping them, man. It was just,
Joe, listen to this. You want to hear something worse than that? Listen to this. So
if it's worse than a chicken story,
yeah, it is, but it's funnier. So fucking so after Chris passes, I go out to NWA to Midwest, Ed Schumann, his company, and they're like, Johnny, you're going to win the NWA Midwest title, the heavyweight title. So after going there a couple times, like, who do you want to work with? I'm like, I'll work with Balls. So they bring Balls in. So long story short, we pull up to O'Hare. Ed Schumann's driving this big, like Lincoln Continental. I'm in the back seat. I think it's another kid, Silas Young, and another kid named Dukes is in the back seat. So we're driving. Someone lights up a joint and passes it. So if you know Balls talks incessantly. He's like, anyway, so me and John, he's talking. He takes the joint. He starts smoking it. He's like, yeah, we're going to the spot. We're going to the table. All of a sudden, it's like somebody hit an off button. He stopped. And he goes, pull over. Blah! Fucking projectile vomits all over the front of Ed Schumann's car, all in the vents, all up in the windshield. The guy pulls over on the highway. Balls pukes all over his door. So now Balls is on all fours with his ass in the air, puking, just go, blah, and Ed Schumann's looking around to see, what he's puking on. Balls' ass is like a centimeter from Ed Schumann's face, and Balls goes, blah, and farts. The guy goes, you farted in my fucking face. Me and the guys in the back seat fell out of the car. We were laughing so hard. It was the funniest thing I ever saw with my own two eyes. It was hilarious, man. He was a freaking character. And yeah, I have so many funny Ball stories, man. So yeah, we used to always fuck with him. Like because I just showed you that little, so if I would have gone straight, there would have been a light where I just showed you like the path from our house to his house. So we'd always have to pass his house if we wanted to beat the light. And we'd see him outside. He'd, tell us to come in or whatever. And then, I tell kind of some of it in the book, but he's like, Chris was like, yo, I wonder, like, what do you think Balls does in that house? It's like a small house and he had like dogs and cats and all kind of shit. So we're like, well, let's go there. So we freaking went there at like midnight, and he's sitting there in his boxer shorts eating. He's got a tray table, and he's got one slice of bologna and a fork and knife. So already me and Chris are fucking dying laughing. We're like, what the one slice of bologna? And then just ever so gently, just just tapped on his windows. He fucking stops, like freezes, starts getting all fucking weirded out, goes back to cutting his bologna. Tap, 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 knock again. He stops. Do it like 2 or 3 more times. Then I fucking boom, boom, boom. I knock on his windows. We run away. We come back to his house all the time. Fucking one time he was laying on the ground naked reading a book. We fucking bashed into his door. We kept fucking with him, and he thought his house was haunted. He's like, Chris, Johnny. He's like, there's 2 spirits at my window at night. I'm telling you, this is true. He's like, they're angry spirits, and they do it. And he's like, telling us all about. Like, I don't think we even told him. I think he died thinking his house was haunted. And then he started blaming everything on the ghost. He's like, oh, my refrigerator flew open and all the ice came dumping out. And all of a sudden he's like, my medication went missing. The fucking ghost is stealing the medication. Everything was the fucking ghost. You know, it was funny. But yeah, we had a lot of fun with that motherfucker. And it's still, it's crazy to think that him and Chris are gone, you know, because they still, their presence still looms large in the neighborhood amongst, like, you know, all of my friends and everybody who grew up with them, you know?
Yeah. So, let's just go straight to it there. Like, I think the cause of death was pneumonia, right? Because I had heard for years that it was he had a blood clot in his leg where he'd broken his leg and then flew home too soon.
Like, you know, like I said, that could have happened, but on the, on the autopsy, it said acute pneumonia. And there was other factors too that, like, you know, I think it's said in the book, like I get, you know, like right when he came, so I talked to him right after it happened. He's like, dude, I'm fine. Everything's cool. I called back a little bit later. Shane answered the phone. He's like, yeah, you know, your brother's talking to the doctor. He's totally fine. He's eating food, whatever. Then he did TV the next 2 days. I talked to him. He flew home. I talked to him when he was home, and he's like, I'm like, yo, dude, what are you doing? He's like, oh, I'm just gonna, you know, get some sleep. You can come over and hang if you want. I'm like, I'll get some sleep, and then I'll come pick you up or whatever. And then I get a call a little bit later. You know, they're like, Cook's in the hospital. I'm like, what? You know, so I fucking went dashing to the hospital, and yeah, long story short, I got there. So he was like, and what sucked so much, this is still in my head, is that, like, I pulled out, and my mom, as I was leaving, I saw her walking up the street from walking on the boardwalk, and I'm like, Mom, Cook's in the hospital. So she, like, you know, she was scared as shit. So I got there first, and I'm just like, you know, I'm like, you know, Cook, you know, I try to wake him up, and you know, obviously he didn't fucking wake up, because you know, when he was on drugs, he would have seizures if he didn't have somas. So I was able to pull him out of him, like, having a seizure. I just make him look at me and you know, try to fixate on me so he wouldn't fucking die. And so, you know, and there was a lot of factors, but yes, the autopsy said acute pneumonia. His lungs filled with fluid, and that's what killed him. So sucks, man. It was definitely fucking preventable, and that's what fucking kills me. Because when you think about it, like, you know, he had some pretty fucking dark times, and I was there throughout all of them. And I was just like, dude, like, it was like one of those days we were sitting there eating. He was bitching about the business, and he was just like, man, when I was fucking 19, I was ready at Smoky Mountain. I was ready going to Japan. I'm like, that's why you fucking made it, dipshit. You know, like, why don't you get your ass in gear? I'm like, you're only like 30 years old. He seems much older, but so he's like, you know what, fuck it. He's like, damn, I fucked everything up. I'm like, let's go, let's get that shit back. And, like, contrary to, you know, popular belief, he didn't have an addictive personality. When he was like, I'm gonna stop drugs, it was like pretty fucking instantaneous. You know, like, he fucking, you know, felt like shit for a couple of days, but then he found his love for the business again. Nothing ever left, but it was like a different kind of, he could see it through different eyes. Like, now he's a veteran, he's older, he's, you know, that was some of my favorite work of his, and just my favorite time, because he was just, you know, not that he ever changed or was different, but it was just great to know that he was, you know, totally clean. And I almost think that's like, he dodged so many bullets of like overdosing and shit. Like, I remember being in Puerto Rico with him, and we'd walk past where Eddie Gilbert died. He'd be like, yeah. And I mean, I was taking somas too, because whatever he did, I fucking did. And I remember, like, you know, passing Eddie, he's like, yeah, man, you know, whatever, I'll die young and leave a good looking corpse. I'm like, dude, don't fucking say that shit. Like, what the fuck?
Right.
And then when we got home, he fucking he really cleaned the shit up, and it was like overnight. He was either going, like me and him went to Raw together because Tom Pritchard was a agent there, and they were pretty much like wait a little bit and then come back, and then TNA was like come here right now, and Chris made money from wrestling, so we went to TNA right away, and he had a talk with JR, and JR's like, even if you do go over there and do good, he's like, it's a win-win, just go to TNA for now. So he did, and he was starting to make his way back up, and it's so crazy to think he passed the 33. That's the age my little sisters are, and I still look at them like they're my little fucking sisters, So it's it's kind of a mind fuck to think how young I'm fucking 39. I still feel like a kid. So, but yeah, the long story long, it was acute pneumonia.
Let me bring up the elephant in the room, if you will. When I met Chris, shortly thereafter, I met Tammy. She was just a young girl. When I was around her, things were a lot different then. And I actually, when he went to WWE or WWF back in the day, they were near here. I went backstage, and of course, Chris comes around the corner. Bobby Blaze, my favorite opponent. But again, I got to talk to him and Tammy, and so I just was when I knew her, it was a whole different time period than eventually what happened and things that started. Do you have anything to say? You want to go into that? Rather not talk about her.
I don't care.
Things to say because I had her. It was a different time period in their lives when I met her, and they were together. So I don't know if you want to bring up any.
I mean, I don't. Yeah, I don't.
In the book, you said to a couple of the boys that were there, Chris is gone. We don't have to be her friend anymore. So I didn't know what that. How bad?
Yeah, no, it was
your relationship with her or not.
Yeah, well, I mean, pretty much fuck her. Like I right after Chris died, she comes out and says all these dudes she banged. Like, what the fuck? And people are like, oh, Chris must have been into it, dude. It's like I saw him trying to fucking hang himself. He wasn't into it. Trust me. And she would just do the most wild shit. Like I kind of remember time periods by like what crazy thing Tammy did. Like I remember like when Chris was in Japan in 2002, I was 20 and he's like, oh, I'm going to be gone for 2 weeks. Keep an eye on Tammy. No problem. Right. And at 20, you're kind of a knucklehead. So me and my friends, it's like midnight and we're like, oh, we ran out of beers. We're going to go get some more beer. I'm like, and somebody's like, oh, let's get Tammy to get us beer. So the only place that would sell beer at that time is a bar with packaged goods, right? Yeah. So we go to this bar, the Spring Lake Manor. We give her whatever, $30-$40, and I'm in the car. I'm waiting. She's not coming out. I'm waiting. Maybe a half hour goes by. She's not coming out. I go in the bar, and she's at the bar drinking, right? And I'm like, yo, where's our beer? Let's go. She gets up, and there's a bunch of pool tables there. And there's these dudes that are playing pool with money on the game, and she slaps all the balls off the table. So now these guys are like, hey, you fucking bitch. They start screaming at her. I'm like, yo, don't fucking say that. So I'm fucking fighting with these guys because she knocked the balls all over the place, right? So me and these guys starting to fight. My friend Sue, who was dating one of these guys, I used to have like parties at Chris's house and shit when he was like gone. And my friend Sue was at the bar and trying to calm things down. She's like, oh, Tammy, I've been to your house. It's a beautiful house. She's like, you've been to my house? And then Tammy just starts attacking me. I'm like, motherfucker. Oh, so she's punching me. She's fucking fighting me. So I tell my friends to leave. I'm driving with one hand, the other hand fucking fending her off, and she's fucking attacking me. So we fucking get back to the house. I fucking bring her inside. She sits down. Whatever. Then she's like, oh, I'm really sorry about everything that happened tonight. Can I have a hug? I'm like, all right, sure, I'll give you a hug. Go to give her a hug. She fucking palm strikes me right in the fucking nose as hard as she can. I was so fucking pissed. I fucking, like a machine gun. I just went, bah, bah, bah. I put like 5 holes in the door and just ripped it off the fucking hinges as she just laughed, Like she's a fucking psycho. Like when I tell you about when Chris was dead and like when I got into the room and I'm trying to wake him up, she comes back into the room and she goes, hey. I go, what? She's like, they only gave me 8 Xanax for this. Like, that's where her fucking head was, like 2 seconds after Chris died. Like, she would just do fucking off the wall, like, just like another annoying thing. Like, me, Chris, and my friends will all go to the gym together, and we'd fuck around, have, lift weights. And one day those bars that are just at the gym, you can kind of like stretch with them. They're like, whatever the fuck they're called. They're just like bars. My one friend was stretching, and she like kind of walked into it and it kind of tapped her eye. And she fell on the ground, started selling her eye, screaming she has to go to the hospital. So Chris is like, babe, let me see her eye. She wouldn't let nobody see her eye. She had her fucking hand like plastered over her eye. So, mind you, we used to go to the gym late, like 9, 10 at night. She's like, I have to go to that fucking hospital. And so we're like, my friend's like, I barely touched her. We're like, yeah, I know, Yeah. She's like, I have to go to the hospital. So, of course, we have to fucking kowtow to her fucking bullshit. So we're going to the hospital, right? We go to Perth Amboy Hospital. She's holding her eye. They call her in. We're in the waiting room for like fucking 4 or 5 hours. Now it's 4 a.m. She comes back out, not selling the eye anymore. She goes, all I got for this is Ultram. Fuck this. And she ripped the prescription up and we left. Like, what the fuck? And then in the car on the way back home, she's like, I want White Castle. I'm like, I don't even know where the fuck a White Castle is. And she's like, I'm the one that got hurt. I fucking want White Castle. I'm like, all right. So I had to go fucking looking for a White Castle at fucking 4 a.m. Like, dude, it was a nightmare. Like, seriously. And like the last time I saw her, I mean, there were so many, but there's so many incidents. But like the last time I saw her it was like right after. So I'd been working a lot. I'd been like, I'd hurt my neck. Long story short, I hurt my neck this one on the weekend, and we used to work at Wildwood. We used to have at this other beach in New Jersey. We had a matinee show and a night show. And at the night show, she brought this chick, Janelle, who liked me. And she's like, why don't we all go on the rides and shit together? So I knew if I said no, she was going to fucking yell and scream and start a fight. But because I went to the hospital, I fucking caught a really bad stinger like 4 days before. But I still went on the rides. And then we're in line for the bumper cars. And I'm like with my neck, I'm like, I'm not going to go on the bumper cars. And that was her end. She's like, you fucking motherfucker. She's like, your fucking head's so big you can't fit through a fucking a doorway. And she fucking slapped me. I'm like, don't fucking touch me. Jeez. She's like, your brother never cared. I'm like, I'm not my fucking brother. And she fucking slapped me again. I'm like, don't fucking touch me. She slapped me again. And, like when you're in line for rides, there's like those guardrails. I just hopped the guardrail, and she hopped the guardrail after me and was fucking like attacking me from behind. And I just walked. I just kept walking. And then I called my friends and was like, dude, I'm leaving this bitch here. Fuck her, Yeah. Like, dude, I can't even explain. Like, she's a fucking nightmare. I don't know. Like, if you get me rolling on Tammy stories, we'll be on the phone for fucking 10 hours.
You know what? I'm gonna interject real quick here then and kind of head things in a different direction. So you told us about a point where your brother was like over wrestling or at least wanted to get back in control. What was the point he was happiest in wrestling?
I gotta say, it was probably, well, I know for a fact when he got signed with WWE in the very beginning, that's when it was like, all his hard work was validated. He made it. And then when he got clean, he was just like, dude, I'm so fucking happy. Because he was back living around the old neighborhood. He was, he's like, he probably from when he got clean, like late mid 04 to when he died, that was the happiest that I ever saw him. He was so fucking happy. Just, again, just being booked fucking constantly, being, just being, he found his love for the business again. And, I could really say, I mean, he would tell me all the time, this is the fucking happiest I've been. He's like, I can't believe I just would like sleep my fucking days away and do nothing. It was like, this is fucking great. And like, I think in the book, it even says something where like, he was like he'd go to shows and like after his match, he'd still be like, fuck, I still have so much energy. Can I go sell hot dogs or something? Like he would just be so, he was so back in love with what he was doing. So
yeah, I
got to say, there's that one picture in the book where it's like me, him, my little sisters, and Tammy in a wrestling ring, and he was just fucking glowing because that year I'd won match of the year with Balls Mahoney, not like nationally, but there was a website called Declaration of Independence, and me and Balls did we had a tables, ladders, and chairs match, and it got ranked number 1. And he called, and when he saw that, he like called me up, like almost crying. He's like, "Dude, you won match of the year! Holy shit!" So he was just so happy. Like I was working, he was back like working constantly. You know, he was back around home, back around all the people. Not that he ever left, but now he was like down the street, you know. Yeah. And he was just so fucking happy, which is why, you know, in the beginning I write like kind of in the foreword how, you know, I was so scared that he was gonna like die of a fucking overdose, and that just would be so like not fitting for him because of how much he loved the business, and that it would just made him a footnote. But you know, seeing that he pulled all this shit together and got his life back together, and you know, it just really, you know, for him to go out, you know, just on a soma overdose or something, that wouldn't be right for him, and all the love and work and, you know, all the passion he had. So I'm just real grateful for that.
Okay. We appreciate it. I know also when he was the NWA champion, he came to my hometown, and he defended the title right here at the National Guard Armory. And of course, Tammy is with him as the manager. But I know he's really happy then because he was in between. He was getting ready to sign with he had been to All Japan, and he came back, and he had just a few more obligations with the book for Smoky Mountain, and then he was also in negotiation with WWE or WWF at the time, and that's the way, you know, after he did that tour, I think he went ahead and signed that's when he signed, you know, with the WWE. So, man, I just, like I said, I really loved your brother a lot. Two people I miss a lot in this business, and Chris is one of them, and the other one is, again, we're talking about the book, No Gimmicks Needed. It's dedicated to the memory of Tracy Smothers, and when I saw that in there, man, I was like, oh, man, brought a tear to my eye, because that's two of the guys I do miss sometimes. Some people times I have a hard time dealing with I think it's survivor's guilt to me sometimes, but that's just on me. That's not on, you know. But the book itself, man, definitely 5 stars. You can get it at let's see, it's eatsleepwrestling.com. Johnny, you're at what? On Twitter? Can people reach you at Candido118? Is that okay?
Yep.
People want to follow up with that. Of course, you can follow up with me at Bobby Blaze 744, the Professor at the Geekish Cast, and we have a joint account. It's the Bell to Bell Blaze. Those are all on Twitter. Feel free to interact, and maybe you can reach out to Johnny if you need to. Actually, John Cosper has he's on Twitter as well. If you're looking for his book, but man, I'm sure
you can also get it on Amazon too.
Yes,
I was going to say you can get Chris's book on Amazon too. The Eat Sleep Wrestle, for, you know, we have signed copies there and regular copies. I think there's still some signed copies left, and also on Amazon. You know, you can pick up the book there. But yeah, I definitely think it's a fitting tribute, and I love all the feedback everybody's been giving me. People have been hitting me up left and right, loving it.
Like you said, I was doing that for my book at the beginning. I've got a couple out there, and I haven't checked on the ranking for a while, but I used to, you know, and I know how hard it is to stay in that top 100. Here it is in the top 50 now at number 45. Sometimes if people, you know, just buy 2 or 3 books a day, it moves you up quite a bit and get on that main page, you know, get that publicity out there, because it's a very good read. I enjoyed it. It's professionally done. The timeline and the history from, you know, Chris's early stages to the end there, man, are spot on. And again, I know John's a wrestling historian, so, but just want you to know, brother, I can't say enough good things about your brother, man, because he was an important part of my early success in professional wrestling, just like I was for his. And I'll never forget those days, man. We shared hotel rooms together a couple of times. You know, I went to his house in Knoxville, or apartment there in Knoxville, and ate several times. You know, just I think we did about everything except for we traveled together. Sabu had a show up in Detroit for us for a couple day runs. He helped me get booked on that, of course, and me, him, Taz, Sabu got to hang out. You know, just guys that you know a lot better than I did. You know, later on, but you know, I knew them guys just through your brother. You know, from getting on them shows with them, and got to travel with them some, and you know, again, just want you to know, man. I appreciated the friendship and the respect that we had for each other.
Yeah, man. And Chris, you know, when you asked me when he was happiest, I mean, he was always a happy guy. Like he would rather joke about something than be serious. Like he was always, you know, in good spirits. But I just know, you know, how, you know, when you asked me like when his happiest times were, like you said, getting to WWE and then toward the end, but he was always a happy guy. Never took himself too seriously. He took wrestling very seriously, but himself,
Yes,
he'd rather joke around than get angry and whatever. So he was always, that's kind of just how he was, just a happy kind of go lucky guy. And I think I wanted the book to kind of reflect that, like, to tell stories of his career, but also like kind of what was going on, in the back, and the shit that we were like laughing about in the background, funny stories from, us on the road together, or you guys, whatever. So, I wanted to kind of make it lighthearted, because I remember when I said that a book was coming out, people were like, "Oh, I'm scared to get it. It's probably going to be sad." I'm like, "Yo, trust me, it's not sad. It's a good book. It's funny, if anything, Yeah. So yeah, I'm just really glad that people have really been liking it, and that's really awesome, man.
Yeah, guys, I hate to interject and I hate to be a total Debbie Downer, but we are just about out of time. So
thank you for having me on so much, man.
Well, Johnny, it was a blast talking to you. I am glad you got this book out. Your brother's definitely one of those guys that people need to check out and learn more about. Somebody with that kind of drive and so successful, so young, Johnny, you got anything you want to close on? Is there anything you want to say before we wrap up?
No, nothing really. I'm just here, promoting the book. I love hearing feedback of everyone, after they finish reading it. I just, my passion project is just to keep my brother's name out there, and because that's what he would have wanted. And I'll just end with this. The reason a lot of people were putting it on coffee tables, like taking a picture of the book on coffee tables, was because maybe in like 2003, when he was still kind of going through his stuff. He left like a Von Erich's book on my parents' coffee table. We were over here for Christmas or something, and he's thumbing through it. My mom's like, "Christopher, is this what you want to be? A coffee table book?" He's like, "Mom, if people still remember me, 10, 15 years from now, I'd be overjoyed to be in a coffee table book." So now he's got his book,
Yeah.
So
right on, man.
yeah, I'm just happy to be able to do that for him. And
Yeah.
That's pretty much it,
Yep. Well, that's great. Hey, Bobby, you got anything to say before we go?
Yeah, man. Thanks, Johnny, for coming on. We appreciate it, man.
Thank you. Anytime, man.
On Amazon, make sure you get it. You can check out a couple of my books as well on Amazon. Pin Me, Pay Me, Have Booth Will Travel. Also, I kicked out on To the Educational Wrestler. But do yourself a favor and go out there and get this No Gimmicks Needed book. It's really, really good. I'm going to rate it 5 stars and leave a review on Amazon myself. With that said, I'm just going to kind of wrap it up for me. Everyone out there, just take care of yourself, man. Things are loosening up a little bit, opening back up a little bit, but you still got to take care of your own mental health sometimes. And again, I say that to myself. When I say that to the audience, I'm also saying it to myself. Sometimes we are our worst enemies and get down on ourselves. We don't need to be that way. Just try to not overthink everything and take care of yourself out there, people.
All right, everybody. Yeah, with that being said, our mask orders in California are ending Tuesday. I'm going to be out coughing and sneezing on motherfuckers and licking doorknobs as soon as I can. All right, well, in the meantime, for the late Tex Johnson, myself, Professor Jeremy Vilmur, and Arn Anderson's favorite enhancement talent, Double B, Bobby Blaze, we say thank you to Jonny Candido, and bye-bye, everybody.
Thank you, guys.